For our day, Jesus and Mary and Joseph were refugees. They had to flee to Egypt to escape the anger, the wrath of King Herod. They were on the run. So Mary and Joseph were homeless on the night Jesus was born, and now they are refugees in a foreign land. Do you know that right now in the world, there are more than 70 million people who are refugees, who don't have a country. Because of war and famine, people migrating around the planet, there are a lot of people out there with no permanent home. And this story about Mary and Joseph fleeing to Egypt helps us think about how to care for them. Thankfully, Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service was founded in 1939, and as Lutherans worldwide, you know there are about 70 million Lutherans worldwide, we have been doing work with refugees all of these years, and it got started by helping to rebuild Germany after World War II. And so down at New Windsor, Maryland, there is a warehouse that has been used to ship relief supplies all around the world. And in fact, that place is still functioning today. Volunteers from churches all over go down there and work for the day and process quilts and health kits and baby supplies. And those get shipped out of the Port of Baltimore to anywhere in the world. That's a good thing to think about after reading this lesson about our global Lutheran family. Wow, have you noticed? Anybody notice? The days are getting longer. You know, we had the winter solstice back on December 21st, 22nd. Do you know what that means? The days are getting longer, only 3 or 4 seconds a day right now. But Christians figured out that the natural world helps people think about God's creation. And actually, as we celebrate the 12 days of Christmas, it will be on that 12th day where you can actually start to see the days getting lighter. And we will enter the season of Epiphany, the season of light, because you all know that Jesus is the light of the world, right? And so we look forward to those days creeping longer again. There is some hope in that. And the Christian church has long capitalized on the seasons and the changes that can be observed in the seasons. So, celebrate the 12 days of Christmas. I remember seeing a Christmas tree up for sale. They were putting them up in Lowe's in September. That commercial world out there celebrates Christmas starting in September. We get to be thinking about it, right? And then it just becomes craziness, right? The shopping in the commercial part of Christmas becomes crazy. Yesterday, my wife thought about going to take something back to the store. I says, no, we're not going out. We should celebrate the 12 days of Christmas. It's something counterculture to do, right? Do you know that there are places in the world that celebrate that people don't get their presents till the 12th day of Christmas? That's the day that we traditionally remember that the wise men arrived to see the baby Jesus. So really, you should be having a party with your family during that whole 12 days. Spread out the fellowship, spread out the gifts, and celebrate the 12th day of Christmas. If you have a live Christmas tree, you know you can keep it up until Epiphany Day. You also can have it recycled or composted, or as Julie and I are going to do, my wife and I, we're going to take it to Blue Marsh Lake. You know what they do with Christmas trees at Blue Marsh Lake? They tie rope around them and put a cinder block on them, and they sink them in the middle of the lake because it provides a breeding ground for the fish. And so there'll be a big pile of Christmas trees, and volunteers will get together sometime as we approach spring, and they'll sink those Christmas trees. That's a cool thing to do. After all, Christmas trees are a crop, right? We see them growing around. That's one way that God gives life from that Christmas tree. We read the story from Matthew today, Matthew chapter 2. And you know that this whole Christmas story is only included in Matthew chapter 2 and in Luke chapter 2. Matthew and Luke had the same friend. They got the same information about the birth of Jesus, and they shared it. Matthew decided to tell the story of Jesus and emphasize the kings of the world. And of course, who comes to see the baby Jesus in the book of Matthew? The kings of the world have a problem with Jesus being born, and the kings of the world come and bow down at the feet of Jesus and give Jesus presents, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. You know, Melchior, Balthazar, Gaspar. Those are their traditional names. It's the kings of the world that submit to Jesus. But in the even more beloved story from Luke chapter 2, who is it that comes to visit the baby Jesus first? Who is it? Who comes to visit the baby Jesus first in Luke? You all know. The shepherds. The lowest of the low. The smelliest shepherds who are out in the field. The poorest of the poor in Luke come to visit the baby Jesus first. That tells us something about how Luke is going to tell the story of Jesus. It is the poor, it is the outcast that are the most important to him as he tells the story of Jesus' birth. What a great story it is. You all are familiar with it. You all are in church every Sunday. You know this story. But there's many in the world who don't know this great story, who have forgotten about it, right? But this great story is the story that makes this holiday, that makes this celebration of family and of life and of giving and receiving. It's a special time of year, and it's this story of love, of God coming down in the flesh that makes it so special. That God is going to come down and experience all that human beings have experienced. God's going to understand us. God's going to experience pain and sorrow and joy and wonder. And all of that is going to lead us as we continue the story of Jesus' work in the life of the church during the season of Epiphany, and then as we enter Lent and think about his passion and death. The church tells this sacred story over and over again, year by year, even as the things in this room help us tell the story and remind each other of this sacred story. This Christmas has been a special one for me. You know that I had my first biological grandchild. Julie and I have a blended family. We have 6 children, 9 grandchildren, all of them in Lancaster County. Well, my son lives in South Carolina, and tomorrow I'm going to drive down there and get to see this little baby, Eloise, who is now 6.5 weeks old. I have been virtually talking to her and seeing her every day in pictures, but it sure will be good to hold her as little babies love to be held. I will look forward to doing that. And somehow that connection for me to the birth of the baby Jesus will be an easy one. Even as Eloise worshiped virtually on Christmas Eve with the people of St. Luke's Lutheran Church in Somerville, my son Dan and his wife Julie, imagine that, we have 2 Julies in our family, are worshiping there. And you know, my son said, well, it's going to be kind of cold this week. It's going to be 50. I said, we'll take that, especially after this past night. What was it, 25 degrees, 26 degrees last night? So, yes, there'll be some joy in that for my wife and I, and there'll be some joy for all of us as we think about this new year to come. as we think about following in the way of Jesus in the year 2021. And we trust that God will guide and direct our steps and our words and our deeds and bind us together in love as he has done for so long. Thank you. Let's sing the first Noel.